Hello, this is Nikki Jackson, one of the adjunct instructors for College Algebra Math 1320 for Concord Career College. And as you can see on the screen, these are examples coming from homework 9. So hopefully you will be able to see these because they saved the best for last. Because this is dealing with quite a bit of synthetic division, and because of time, I won't be able to cover all of the examples from homework 9. So ladies, gents, individuals, you will have to work on some of these independently. So as you can see, we have number 1, 2, and 3. They're saying for number 1, so I'm going to do a bit of going in and out and zooming in for you. It's asking you to evaluate and use synthetic division to determine the remainder factor for the remainder theorem. So yeah, that was one of the ones that I just did not like at all. But here's the thing about that. We already know what we're going to divide by to figure out what it is. So notice right here where it says C, right there, what we're going to be doing is just substituting the value of 4 into n for that. So every time we see an n, we're going to substitute 4. You're going to have the same answer for both of them because, duh, they're asking for the same thing. We're just going to do it a little bit differently. So let's jump to it. So jump to it. Shout out to Aretha Franklin if y'all don't know that song. So right here, I substituted 4 into the actual equation. So take a moment to actually look at what I did. Once I simplified everything, the final answer was 78. So hopefully you guys see that right there. If I was going a little bit too fast, please make sure you pause and rewind to go through it. All right, moving on. Remember what I said earlier about the time? So yeah. So here goes another problem. So instead of using the remainder theorem, Nice wants to know about the factor theorem. So we did factors starting with module 6. So those are pretty much like division and multiplication. So we see the actual equation itself. We got 5x squared minus 14x plus 9. It wants to know if this part right here, I'm just scribbling all over it, is the actual answer, aka a factor. So let's figure that out. And it is a yes, so let me show you how. I was factoring using the AC method, and some of you may remember the AC method, some of you may not, but the AC method was one of the ways that we factored a trinomial into binomials according to the last and first term. So our first term is 5, our last term is 9. 5 times 9 gives you 45. So over here, I wrote down all the factors of 45, and I'm trying to think of which of these pairs, if I add or subtract them, gives me 14, which is your middle term. So then 1 and 45, 3 and 15, 5 and 9. Those are all the factors of 45. Well, 5 and 9 are the only ones, if I add them together, can give me 14. So by grouping, I put the 5x minus 5x together. So 5x squared minus 5x, I'm sorry. So that's breaking down that 14. And then I did 9x plus 9. So the 14 came from the 5 and the 9, by the way. Once I can factor out a 5x right here, I'm left with x minus 1. Once I can factor out a 9 right here, I'm still left with x minus 1. So going back to the initial problem, it wanted to know if x minus 1 was a factor. That is a yes. We're looking at yet another example of factoring. So let me go to number 3. Let me zoom in. Erase that. Now, unlike the previous example, it had a degree of 2. What I mean by 2, that was, a polynomial with 2, and it had 3 terms. This one right here has 4 terms. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has a degree of 3. So that's your largest exponent. So we can't factor that out the same way that we did earlier. We're going to have to do a different method. We're going to have to actually use synthetic division now. So let's figure that out. So notice how this 2 is very, very important. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So let me zoom out so everybody can see it. Okay, so synthetic division is very similar to long division, and we may not necessarily like long division, but we're going to do it today. So one of the factors that was given to you was x minus 2, hence you found it right here. The actual polynomial itself was 8x cubed minus 21x plus 21x minus 22. So what I did right now was rewrite it only using the coefficients and the numbers and the constants. So I bring down the 2, bring down my 8, bring down the negative 21, bring down my 21, bring down my 22. So here's where the long division comes in. That first term, always bring down. So daddy, mama, sister, brother. So daddy is divide, mama is multiply, so 2 times 6 is 16. Daddy, mama, sister, subtract, so negative 21 plus 16, negative 25. Brother, bring down. So daddy, mama, sister, brother. So now we got 2 times negative 10. I'm sorry, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Combine your like terms, that's 11. 2 times 11 is 22. So it's a yes when that very last column has a remainder of 0. So this is one of the ones you may want to pause and go back over, because synthetic division is a booger-bear. Not a booger-boo, a booger-bear. Here's more synthetic division. So let's look at number 4. Once again, your highest degree or your highest exponent is 3, hence the exponent is a degree of 3. And wants to know if x minus 4 is a factor. I'm saying x minus 4, I'm sorry, x minus 6 is a factor, my apologies. So let's figure it out. Okay, so the first step, I rewrote it using synthetic division. So x minus 6 can go into x cubed minus 7x plus minus 66x plus 432. Now I rewrite it only using my constants and coefficients. So bring down the 6, bring down the 1, bring down the negative 7, negative 66, and 432. Remember, always bring down that first term. So 6 times 1 is 6. Combine your like terms, you got negative 1. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Again, combine your like terms, you got negative 72. Now we got 6 times negative 72. Combine your like terms, your remainder of 0. So that is a factor. But when I rewrite it again, because think about divisions, we don't want anything to be remaining. You still see numbers on this last row. Even though we know it's a factor, all of these should be 0. So let's figure it out. So we went from the third power, now we're going to rewrite it to the second power. So we got x squared minus x minus 72. See what I did there? Yeah. We know by factoring a trinomial, tri meaning 3 terms, into 2 binomials, we can get this 72. So here's going to x here, here goes to x here. Using some mental math, think about all the factors of 72 that we can multiply to get 72, but if we add or subtract them, can give us 1. So that was 8 and 9. Because that middle term is negative, that means our larger of the 2 numbers is going to be negative, and because the last term is negative, that means the other one has to be positive. So to complete the factorization, we got the x minus 2, which was given to us in the problem, and once we factored ourselves, we had x minus 9 and x plus 8. Here goes number 5. Once again, you see that synthetic division. So practice makes perfect. We're going to probably keep doing these until we're able to actually understand them, or at least be very, very good at guessing. Then there goes number 5. So once again, I rewrote it. So hopefully y'all can see everything. Okay, great. So given to us, it was asking if x plus 2 is a factor, and then the actual polynomial itself was x cubed minus 5x squared minus 32x minus 36. I rewrote it using all your constants and coefficients. So notice right here, it's a plus right here. But because we're doing synthetic division, you got to think about your sign. So we know that two negatives give you a positive. So in this case, that constant is now -2, but everything else remains the same as given. So hopefully you see that right there. So all right, going by our rules, the first term, bring it down. So now we got -2 times 1, that gives you -2. Combine your like terms, that's -7. -2 times -7 is +14. Combine your like terms, that's still -18. -2 times -18 is +36. Combine like terms, your remainder is 0. So because this last column is a 0, we know that x plus 2 is a factor. But now I'm going to rewrite this trinomial, because it's 1, 2, 3 terms, into 2 binomials. Binomial because I know I see that too. So here goes the x, here goes the x. When I rewrite it, I got x squared minus 7x minus 18. Using mental math, think of what products or what numbers can give you a product of 18, meaning that I multiply. But if I add or subtract, it can give me 7. 9 and 2 popped in my mind. Because both of these are negative, we know that these two have to be unlike signs. It always takes the sign of the greater number, the middle term, so your 9 is negative and your 2 is positive. So quick refresher, when this last term is negative, both of these have to be unlike. So one is negative and one is positive. The middle term always takes the sign of the bigger of the factors. Now we're going to do the final factorization. We already knew that x plus 2 was a factor because that was a 0. Right here, we're going to do x plus 2, which is that one, x minus 9, which comes down, then x plus 2 comes down. Because we got two x plus 2's, when you rewrite it, you can say x minus 9 and then x plus 2 squared. Still dealing with factors. So we're looking at number 6. The rational root theorem is time consuming, so here is your warning. Try to do your best that you can for that because it's going to take some time. So I'm looking at this one right here, and then I'm going to show you how they got those answers. So here we go. Given to you, you had x cubed minus 6x minus 4x plus 24 equals 0. Well, I'm going to look at my first term and my last term, and I'm going to list all the factors of 24. I don't necessarily have to list the terms for this one, or the factors for this one, because it's 1. So factors have to be both negative and positive. So I got +1, +2, +3, +4, +6, +8, +12, and +24. So you can have a better understanding. 1 times 24 is 24, 2 times 12 is 24, 3 times 8 24, and 4 times 6 is 24. Because 1 is a universal divisor, we're going to use 2. We're going to test out 2 because that's one of the factors listed. So using synthetic division, rewrite it. So we're going to have 1, -6, -4, +24, and we're going to use 2. 2 is one of the ones that you want to test. And the reason why we want to test it, well, just so happens 24 is an even number. And we see it listed as a factor. So now using synthetic division, bring down that first term. So 2 times 1 is 2. -6 plus 2 is -4. 2 times -4 is -8. Combine like terms, you got -12. And 2 times -12 is 24. Combine like terms, it eliminates each other. So you know that x minus 2 is a factor. X minus 2, that's where that 2 came from. Now we can rewrite it. We have x squared minus 4x minus 12. Using mental math, we have to think of the factors of 12, that if you multiply them together, they give you 12. But if you add or subtract them, they give you 4. Again, mental math, I'm using split the x's, or x and x. 6 and 2 give you 12. Notice how they're both negatives, so that means the 6 is going to be negative because the 4 is negative, and the 2 has to be positive because 12 is negative. All 3 factors now are x minus 2. That's this right here. You assume it's negative. x plus 2, which came right here, and then x minus 6. To get the final answers, you will let each one of these equal 0. So if I'm solving for x for this one right here, add 2 to both sides, x equals 2. If I'm adding for x right here, x minus 2 to both sides, x equals negative 2. I'm sorry. And if I add 6 to both sides right here, x minus 6 give you positive 6. Here's yet another one pertaining to the rational root theorem. Again, they saved the best for last. It's very time consuming. So you have your equation, which is 8x cubed minus 10x squared minus 23 minus 5 all equals 0. We know we're going to have 3 roots because your degree is 3. That's your largest exponent. We're going to use synthetic division to determine it. So, thing that I did now, so let me zoom out so you can see it. We have 8x cubed minus 10x squared minus 23x minus 5. So I'm looking at my first term and my last term. We're going to write all the factors out, both positive and negative. So we got 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. Because 1 times 8 gives you 8. And then 4 times 2 gives you 8. And then 1 times 5 gives you 5. Because all of these are the factors and 2 can't go into 5, we're going to use 1 now. Let's use negative 1. Because remember, they can be both positive and negative. So using synthetic division, I write out my coefficients and my constants as listed right here. Bring down your 8, so 1 times 8 is negative 8. Combine your like terms, you got negative 18. Negative 1 times negative 18 is positive 18. Combine your like terms, you're left with negative 5. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. Combine your like terms again. Notice how you got a 0. Well, if we know what the 0 is, we know that x plus 1, which is this right here, is going to be a factor. Even though you see a negative, x plus 1. We're going to rewrite it again using that trinomial 1, 2, 3 into 2 binomials. So we rewrite it 8 minus x squared minus 18 minus 5. That's what we got. Listing your factors now. So we got to pay close attention to our factors. I list all the factors that I had available that can give me 40, because 8 times 5 is 40. But if I combine them, would give me 18. So I'm typing right now because I am multitasking, so my apologies. So all your factors of 40 are listed. It's only this pair right here that can give you the actual 18. So I split it. So I had my 2 and my 20 together. So 2 is a factor of 8 and 20 is a factor of 5. So I made a mistake right here, so my apologies. So again, we're using the grouping method after we do AC method. You hear me typing, so my apologies, because I am multitasking. Once we factor out everything, we know that the 4x plus 1 is a factor for both of them, and then look on the outside of them, we have the 2x minus 5. But wait, there's more! Here goes all 3 factors now. So you remember the x plus 1 from earlier when we did the synthetic division with the negative? That's where that came from. So now we're going to let all 3 of them equal 0. So your final answers when we solve for x is negative 1, negative 1/4, and 5 over 2. So if you got any questions, let me know. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Numbers 8 through 14, you will have to work out on your own because they're too time consuming. Numbers 15 through, I'm looking through the problems, 18 are all graphs, and in the previous example for module 8, I showed you how to use your calculator. So that means from 15 through 18, you can use your calculator. And 21, 20, 22, you may use your calculator as well. And 19, you're going to be on your own. So that's why it's a blank screen right here. So my apologies for any inconvenience, but I do appreciate you joining in.